It was a quiet evening when Ethan Turner first began to suspect that something was off about his wife, Olivia. The signs had been subtle at first. Missed calls, sudden late nights at work, the way she clutched her phone a little too tightly when he was around. But over time, those small details had begun to add up, forming an unsettling picture in his mind. Ethan had never been the jealous type. He trusted Olivia. They had been married for 8 years, built a life together, and even talked about starting a family soon. But something in his gut told him that the woman he had vowed to spend his life with was keeping a secret, a big one. Sitting in their dimly lit living room, he scrolled through old photos of them on his phone, memories of a love that once felt unbreakable. The laughter in her eyes, the way she used to lean into him during pictures, how she'd randomly text him during the day just to say she missed him, those things had faded. Now, their conversations were often filled with awkward silences and short, clipped responses. His thoughts were interrupted by the sound of the front door unlocking. Olivia walked in, her hair slightly tousled, her blouse a little wrinkled. Ethan glanced at the clock. It was nearly 10 p.m. "Late night again?" he asked, keeping his voice even. She hesitated for a fraction of a second before responding. "Yeah, work has been crazy. Clients keep pushing deadlines." She dropped her purse on the counter and grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge. "I'm exhausted." Ethan observed her closely. There was something about the way she avoided his gaze, how she turned away just a little too quickly. "You've been working late a lot these days," he said casually. She sighed, rubbing her temples. "You know how it is. The firm's been taking on more projects. I don't have a choice." Ethan nodded slowly. He wanted to believe her, desperately. But a nagging doubt in his mind wouldn't let go. That night, after Olivia had fallen asleep, Ethan lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. He didn't want to be that guy, the husband who snooped, who doubted his wife without proof. But something told him that if he didn't start looking for answers, he would regret it. The next day, Ethan decided to pay an unannounced visit to Olivia's office. He walked into the law firm's lobby, feeling slightly out of place in his casual jeans and jacket among the sea of business suits. Approaching the receptionist, he gave a friendly smile. "Hey, I'm looking for Olivia Turner. Just thought I'd surprise her for lunch." The receptionist frowned slightly. "Oh, Olivia isn't in today. She took the day off." Ethan's stomach dropped. He masked his shock with a polite nod. "Right, of course. Thanks." He walked out of the building, his hands clenched into fists. Where the hell was she? If she wasn't at work, then what excuse would she give him this time? Determined to find out the truth, Ethan called Olivia. She answered on the third ring. "Hey, babe," she said, her voice cheerful. "What's up?" "Just wanted to check in," he said, forcing a smile into his voice. "How's work?" She hesitated just for a second. "Oh, it's hectic as usual. I can't wait to be done for the day." His grip on the steering wheel tightened. She was lying. "Yeah," he said, keeping his voice steady. "I bet." That night, he decided to dig deeper. Waiting until Olivia was in the shower, he picked up her phone from the nightstand. He didn't know what he was expecting, but what he found made his blood run cold. A string of messages from a saved contact labeled M filled the screen. "M, last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you." "M, same time tomorrow." "M, I hate sneaking around, but I can't stay away from you." Ethan's heart pounded so hard he thought Olivia might hear it from the bathroom. He scrolled up, his eyes scanning the messages frantically. Then he saw it. A picture. Olivia with another man, his arm around her waist, the two of them smiling like a happy couple. And Ethan knew exactly who he was. Michael Carter, a senior partner at Olivia's firm, and a married man. Ethan felt sick. His stomach twisted in knots, his breath coming out in short, shallow gasps. This wasn't just an affair. This was an affair with a man who had a wife. A family. His hands trembled as he put the phone back down, just as Olivia stepped out of the bathroom. She smiled at him, towel wrapped around her damp hair. "Everything okay?" she asked. Ethan swallowed the burning anger rising in his chest. He forced himself to nod. "Yeah," he lied, his voice hollow. "Everything's fine." Ethan barely slept that night. His mind was a battlefield of emotions. Rage, betrayal, disbelief. He lay next to Olivia, staring at the ceiling while she slept peacefully, completely unaware that he knew. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that picture again, Olivia in Michael Carter's arms, smiling like she belonged there. By morning, Ethan had made a decision. He wasn't going to confront her yet, not until he had more proof. If she could lie so easily to his face, he needed to be careful. He needed to play the long game. He got up earlier than usual, heading to work with a new purpose. Instead of taking his usual route to his job at the construction firm, he drove to a private investigator's office. If Olivia was cheating with a married man, he needed undeniable proof. And he wanted Michael Carter's wife to see it, too. The PI, a sharp-eyed man named Greg Lawson, listened carefully as Ethan explained the situation. You want full surveillance? Photos, timestamps, locations? Greg asked. Everything, Ethan said, his voice hard. I want their whole affair documented. And I need it discreet. Greg nodded. Give me a week. Ethan clenched his fists. A week felt like a lifetime, but he had no choice. The following days were torture. Olivia continued her routine of late nights and vague excuses. Ethan acted normal, never giving her a reason to suspect that he knew. He kissed her goodbye in the mornings, texted her casually throughout the day, and pretended to be the same loving husband he had always been. But inside, he was counting down the days. On the 5th day, Greg called. Meet me in my office, he said. You're going to want to see this. Ethan arrived in record time. Greg handed him a thick folder. They're sloppy, Greg said. They don't even try to hide it anymore. Ethan opened the folder. His stomach twisted as he flipped through the images. Olivia and Michael at a hotel. Olivia sneaking into his car, them sharing intimate moments in a secluded restaurant. Time-stamped, crystal clear, undeniable. Greg leaned back in his chair. Here's the kicker. Michael's wife, Rebecca Carter, has no idea. Ethan exhaled slowly, gripping the folder. She's about to find out. The next evening, Ethan put his plan into motion. He waited until Olivia left for another one of her work dinners. Then, he dialed Rebecca Carter's number. Hello. Her voice was polite, but slightly wary. Rebecca, my name is Ethan Turner. I think we need to meet. It's about your husband. There was a pause. Then cautiously she said, go on. Not over the phone. Ethan said, I'll send you an address. Trust me, you'll want to see this in person. Rebecca hesitated, then finally agreed. Ethan arrived early at the cafe, gripping the folder tightly. When Rebecca walked in, he recognized her immediately. Poised, elegant, a woman who had no idea her world was about to shatter. She sat across from him, scanning his face. You said this was about Michael? Ethan slid the folder across the table. Open it. Rebecca frowned, flipping it open. The moment she saw the pictures, she froze. Her hand trembled as she flipped through them, her face paling. No, she whispered, her voice breaking. Ethan swallowed the lump in his throat. I'm sorry. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she quickly wiped them away. How long? Months, Ethan said. Maybe longer. They meet at hotels, restaurants, sometimes at his office after hours. Rebecca let out a shaky breath. I knew something was off, but I never imagined this. Ethan leaned forward. I didn't bring this to you just to hurt you. I think we should expose them, together. Rebecca looked up sharply. I want them to feel what we're feeling right now. Ethan continued. I want everyone to know what they've done. And I think you do too. Rebecca's lips pressed into a thin line. Then, after a long pause, she nodded. I'm in. Ethan and Rebecca spent the next 2 days planning their revenge. It wasn't enough to simply confront Olivia and Michael. They wanted to make sure both of them faced the consequences of their actions. And for that, they needed an audience. Rebecca had a perfect idea. Michael's law firm was hosting a corporate gala that weekend, a high-profile event with senior executives, colleagues, and even clients in attendance. Olivia would be there as well. She never missed an opportunity to network. It was the perfect stage for their revelation. Ethan took care of the final piece, printing out every damning photo, every text message, every bit of evidence they had. There would be no way for Olivia or Michael to talk their way out of this. The night of the gala arrived. Ethan and Rebecca arrived separately, blending into the crowd. Dressed in sharp suits, They looked like any other guests, except they weren't here to celebrate. They were here to destroy two people's lives. Michael and Olivia were easy to spot. They stood near the bar, laughing and chatting like they had nothing to hide. Ethan's blood boiled, but he kept his composure. He had to. The real moment was coming soon. Rebecca had already arranged everything with the event staff. At exactly 9 p.m., just as the night's keynote speaker was about to take the stage, the large projector screen in the ballroom flickered. The microphone crackled. A confused hush fell over the crowd as an unfamiliar voice, Rebecca's voice, came through the speakers. Good evening, everyone. Before we continue, I'd like to share something very important with all of you. Something that affects two people in this very room. Michael's face went pale. Olivia stiffened. Ethan watched from the corner as the slideshow began. One by one, the pictures appeared on the massive screen. Olivia and Michael in the hotel, in his car, in his office. A gasp rippled through the room. Murmurs spread like wildfire. Oh my God, is that Michael Carter? And Olivia Turner? Michael rushed toward the stage, his face twisted in panic. Turn it off. Turn it off right now. But Rebecca wasn't done. Michael Carter, my husband of 12 years, has been having an affair with Olivia Turner for months, she announced, her voice calm but filled with ice. And since they clearly have no shame, I figured they wouldn't mind if everyone else knew too. The audience was in shock. People stared, whispered, pointed. Michael turned toward Rebecca, his face desperate. Rebecca, please. Don't, she snapped. We're done, Michael. I've already spoken to my lawyer. Consider our marriage over. Then she turned to Olivia, who stood frozen, her face drained of color. I hope ruining my family was worth it, Rebecca said coldly. Because now, you've ruined yours too. Olivia looked wildly around, as if searching for an escape. Then her eyes landed on Ethan. Ethan, please. Ethan shook his head. Don't. Just don't. The whispers turned into full-blown conversations. The firm's senior partners exchanged horrified glances. Clients shook their heads. Michael had just been exposed in front of his entire professional world. And Olivia? She had just become the most talked-about woman in the room for all the wrong reasons. Security arrived to escort them out. The night was over for them. Ethan took one last look at Olivia as she was dragged toward the exit, tears streaming down her face. This was the moment he had been waiting for, and he felt nothing but satisfaction. The fallout from the gala was immediate. By the time Ethan woke up the next morning, his phone was flooded with messages, some from mutual friends, some from Olivia herself. He didn't bother reading them. He had said everything he needed to say. Rebecca had kept her word. She filed for divorce the very next day, and Michael's firm wasted no time in distancing themselves from him. Infidelity might not be a legal crime, but in the corporate world, scandals like this were deadly. By the end of the week, Michael had been put on indefinite leave. As for Olivia, she was facing her own nightmare. Word spread quickly through their social circle. Friends she had once confided in stopped returning her calls. The company she worked for, a prestigious marketing agency, didn't fire her outright, but she was quietly pushed out. Clients refused to work with her, and in a business built on reputation, that was a death sentence. But Ethan didn't care about any of that. He had his own future to think about. A week after the gala, Olivia showed up at the house. Ethan had half expected her to. He wasn't surprised when he heard the knock on the door. He debated ignoring it, but something inside him told him to face her one last time. When he opened the door, Olivia looked nothing like the confident woman she had once been. Her eyes were red and puffy, her usual polished appearance replaced by a disheveled, desperate look. Ethan, please, she whispered. Can we talk? He crossed his arms. There's nothing left to talk about. She swallowed hard. I messed up. I know that. But I need you to understand. Michael meant nothing to me. It was a mistake, just a stupid mistake. Ethan let out a bitter laugh. A mistake? Olivia, mistakes happen once. Not for months. Not in hotels. Not in secret meetings. That wasn't a mistake. That was a choice. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I don't want to lose you. You lost me the second you decided to betray me. She reached for his hand, but he stepped back. Please, Ethan, she begged. I'll do anything to fix this. You can't, he said, his voice firm. You made your bed, Olivia. Now you have to lie in it. He shut the door in her face. As he walked away, he felt no anger, no sadness, just relief. Ethan stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie. The reflection, staring back at him, was different from the man he had been just weeks ago. He looked stronger, lighter, free. It had been a month since the night of the gala, and in that time his life had changed in ways he never expected. He wasn't just moving on, he was thriving. He had finalized his separation from Olivia. The legal proceedings had been swift, thanks to the ironclad prenup he had insisted on when they got married. Olivia walked away with nothing. No house, no shared assets, no financial support. And considering she had lost her job and most of her friends, she was now truly alone. Michael's downfall had been just as brutal. His wife, Rebecca, had drained their joint accounts before filing for divorce. She moved into a new house with their kids, while Michael, jobless, disgraced, and drowning in legal fees, was left struggling to pick up the pieces. It was poetic justice. Ethan didn't feel sorry for either of them. They had made their choices. That evening, he met up with Rebecca for dinner. They had grown close since the scandal, bonded by shared betrayal. She had been the one person who truly understood what he had been through. And in her company, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: peace. As they sat in a quiet restaurant, sipping wine, Rebecca looked at him thoughtfully. "You seem happy," she said. Ethan smiled. "I think I am." She nodded. "Me too." For a long moment, they just looked at each other. There was something unspoken between them, something neither of them was ready to put into words just yet. And that was okay. They had both been broken, betrayed, torn apart by people they trusted. But here they were, still standing, stronger than before, and finally free,